Hello, my name is Tim Erickson. I can be found on the internet under the pseudonym of St. Paul Tim. I am here today on behalf of Simplo, part of my company Triplo, to talk about the Simplify module. We can see here the Simplify module is maintained by Peter Anderson. If we go to backdropcms.org, the project page, we can scroll through and we could read the sort of documentation and installation instructions, but I'm going to cover those today. We can see that this was a Drupal 7 module developed by Mark Schust and ported to Backdrop by Peter Anderson and currently maintained by Peter Anderson. What the Simplify module does is pretty straightforward. I have a Backdrop site here that I spun up on backdropcms.org. It's a free demo site. Anyone can spin one up, either to just poke around at Backdrop or to try out things. It's a great way to try out modules or to create little screencasts demonstrating how modules work. That's how I'm using it today. And I have created a website. I haven't done anything to it except add the Simplify module already. Hopefully you know how to do that. And, well, I haven't really even configured it yet. I did create a test user account, so I'm not user number 1, I'm user number 2. User number 1 would be the default admin account that comes with the site. I created a second account. I called it test user. This test user account has full access to do anything on the site. And the scenario that you might want to use the Simplify module is you have an organization, a business, and you've given a number of people ability to update, maybe post blog posts or update your content. You'd like to keep the editor experience as simple as possible for them. Well, there's a bunch of things we could do to do that, but a really simple one would be the Simplify module. If we go to create a post within Backdrop with full admin privileges, you see a lot of tabs and stuff here that you may or may not need. Now, some of these things would go away if you restricted this user's permissions. Maybe if you use the default editor role that is now in Backdrop. The default editor role doesn't have quite as many options and won't see quite as many tabs. But short of doing that, if you want to get rid of some of these things, you can, as an admin, go over here, User Interface, Simplify. And basically for nodes, there's also options for users, comments, and taxonomy, and blocks for any of those. But for nodes, which is what posts are, we can hide different fields from the content editors. And so in this case, I'm going to start out by hiding these URL fields. Maybe that's the one in particular I just feel like I don't need, I'd like to get rid of, so that my user doesn't have to deal with those, or my content editor. So now when my content editor comes, they scroll down and, oh, look at that, they still have that field. Well, what happened here is, I'm going to demonstrate it to you by going to the permissions page. Where is that? User accounts, permissions. And here, if we do a simplify, we go down to the simplify permissions, and we see that I have administer or permissions to administer Simplify. I also have view hidden fields permission. This means that even the fields I hide, I'm going to be able to see. So I'm going to want to disable that. Now, if I had been administering this for, say, site editors that have the editor role, I wouldn't have had to disable this because they didn't have that permission. But I do, and I don't want to see these fields, and I don't want people with the same permission as me to see those. So I'm going to save my change. Basically, we'll go back and double check. Simplify. Yep, now I don't have that role. Now, if I go to content, add, post, we are going to see. Oh, so I turned off that permission. Let's go back to Simplify. Make sure, oh, that's not saved here. Not sure what happened there. Save configuration. Okay, I've removed the permission. So now, if I go add content, post, there it is. That field is gone. And it could be that I don't, if the default is set to publish now, and I don't necessarily want to give people draft or schedule options. Let's see what else what are the other options we have? Well, we could, the promoted, the formatting. Let's, well, I'm going to do everything but the formatting options. Although some of these weren't available to me anyways, maybe just because of the way the site was configured by default. But I turn all of those off, I come back to this form, I refresh the page. Boom, now all those tabs are gone. Now look at this. I just have my title field, my tags field, body, and image. Now, some people say, well, what about this? There's this little thing here that can be distracting or confusing. It's formatting options. Backdrop by default gives certainly admins the ability to choose between two different text filters. And if I change those, it'll change my options here. By the way, filtered HTML basically means that you're allowed a limited number of HTML tags that you can use, and anything else will get filtered out. That's what filtered HTML is. Raw HTML means you can put any HTML you want in here, and it's not going to filter anything out. Well, I could restrict permissions to use these different filters, but another option I have is to sort of simplify this, if I just don't want that field to be visible, is to turn that off. Formatting options. Save, configure. Come back here. We reload this page now. Now the page is even simpler. Look at that. The formatting options is gone. It's a really clean and simple editor page. Really, this is what the Simplify module does for you. It does the same thing on some other forms for users, comments, taxonomy, and blocks. And last but not least, if you are user number one, in fact, I am I have a window open as user number one, which is right here. User number one is the original user. And even though we've turned off the ability to, we've turned off to see hidden fields, the user number one still sees all these fields because they are user number one and they have permission to do everything. So there is an advanced setting in the Simplify module that lets you override that and even hide these things for user number one. So down here, I hide for user number one. And now, as user number one, I go to that post page. And boom, I see the same thing that everybody else does. So that's a handy little feature. Just don't sort of lock yourself out of anything or restrict your access. What I would normally do rather than that is leave these kinds of things visible for user number one, but then create another admin account that I would use if I want to log in and not have those distracting things. I only would log in as user number one if I want to see everything. Okay, I think we're going to leave it at that today. I try to keep these videos as short as I can, but I'm not good at not talking. Anyways, if you have any more questions, come by simplo.site. Simplo.site is our URL. We do have Team Triplo has a YouTube channel, which is where you're probably getting this video. Be sure to check out all our other backdropcms.org or backdrop CMS videos. Thank you very much. Bye.